A lot of people take a lot of trouble editing videos and putting post-production and stuff like that. And I'm just going at it raw, and I hope that you don't mind. I just sometimes need to talk to you, and I figured let's just do it. So here I am, I have thoughts on my mind. This is unscripted, so I'm probably going to hem and haw a little bit, and I hope that you don't mind. There's, so I'm on Facebook a lot, and I administer a couple of groups, fairly important communities, and in them occasionally there's spirited debate. And one topic that has surfaced on 3 different places on Facebook is the concept of if a person decides not to sleep with a trans person, is that person being transphobic? And it's been an interesting subject of conversation. So the specific argument or the specific situation that a trans man was describing was a situation where a woman said that she's attracted to penis, she's attracted to vagina, she's attracted to cis men, and she's attracted to cis women, but she will not sleep with a trans man. And so his point was, well, that's casual transphobia. And a spirited debate ensued. And so there were some that were saying, well, yeah, that's bullshit. And there were some others that were saying, well, I'm really sad that this happened, and I'm sorry that this happened to you. And then there were people who were saying, well, that's downright transphobia, and that's not okay. And people should not discriminate in such a manner. And then there was a backlash from some other people saying, well, are you telling us that you're going to police who we have sex with? Are you telling us that our preferences don't matter? Are you saying that we should not respect our sexual preferences? And so there were all these warring camps, so to speak. And one of the elements of the conversation is that a preference or is that a prejudice? And so that's basically what I want to discuss. I've actually written a couple of fairly lengthy articles on this. One of them is called What Do We Do About Women with a Penis? You can find it on Medium. I'm going to add the link here if I post it. The other article is called Are Lesbians Who Don't Sleep with Trans Women Transphobic? And there's also a link for that, hopefully, when I post this video. So there's a lot to unpack here. And I really want to start with this one thing because I really believe that this is a straw man argument and it derails the conversation. No one is suggesting that anyone should feel forced to have sex with anyone they don't want to. And that's a really important point, and I hope that that'll be the jump-off point for the rest of the conversation. No one is arguing for the idea that you should feel pressured or forced to have sex with someone that you don't want to. I believe in consent. I teach consent. I've been teaching consent for years. This is an important topic for me. I hold it very close to my heart. You should never feel pressured to have sex with someone that you don't want to. That said, what I'm inviting is for you to examine pockets of prejudice that you might have. I'll give you some examples. So specifically, there were some ethnicities in my life that at some point in my life would have never considered as a viable sexual partner, as a viable romantic partner. Specific ethnicity. And why was that? Well, obviously it was because of prejudice. And it was driven by lack of proximity, it was driven by lack of contact, by big unknowns, by big question marks as to what would that look like, and the only idea of what would that look like is based on prejudice and based on misconceptions and, well, prejudice, right? So judging before the fact. And over time, to be perfectly honest, driven a lot by my own transition and my own journey into marginalization, I was forced to examine and think about all of these pockets of prejudice. I've also really been in contact with people who are very active in social justice and in the intersectionality and fight racism, and so I've gotten really informed over the last few years. But it wasn't the case with me, say, 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I am embarrassed at some of the positions I held 10 years ago. If you had gotten me 10 years ago, I would have told you quite clearly, I sleep with cis women, I sleep with cis men, but I will not sleep with anyone in the middle. And today I laugh at that position. It's a ludicrous, for me, it's a ludicrous position to hold. It's absolutely rooted in transphobia. Now you might be wondering, how is it possible for me, a trans woman, to have transphobia? I'm swimming in a sea of transphobia. I mean, it's all that I sucked up through years and years and years of feeling my own self-shame. And I definitely didn't want to pile up on top of that by dating somebody who's marginalized too. Do you see what I mean? There's a little bit of a desire to legitimize, to go mainstream, and that would have played against me. I mean, I realize this now, I didn't realize this then. There's also just fear of the unfamiliar. In dating a particular race that you haven't been exposed to much, it's definitely fear of the unfamiliar. Are their customs going to be different? Are they going to have different hot buttons? Are there going to be unmanageable differences in culture? These are valid questions, and these are things that could potentially influence the relationship. Now, if that's what you're focusing on, and if it's a question of just like getting used to a situation or something like that, fine, that's something valid to explore. But if it's driven strictly by those people, well, now I invite you to consider the idea that you could have racism inside. You don't have to be a racist to have some racism in you. Do you know what I mean? There's like little pockets. It really isn't all or nothing. And again, I need to add here a link to Jay Smoot's How to Tell Someone That They Just Did Something Racist or Said Something Racist talk, which is an unbelievable talk. It really, the whole point of Jay Smoot's video is the fact that it's not a good idea to call somebody racist, and I'm gonna port this over into it. It's not worth it to call somebody transphobic, because then they're going to argue to them about the integrity of their character. I'm going to do a video on this separately. What's worth pointing out is, well, examine your behavior, examine your words, examine the thoughts that you're displaying. And so that's kind of the conversation that I want to have, which is, if you are eliminating some people from your dating pool strictly because of those people with those characteristics, then it might be driven by prejudice. Now, okay, so really a good friend of mine who is a polyamorous pundit and a blogger and just a wonderful woman posted something online that I really would like to share with you, because this thing made me cry when I read it, and it's so funny because it's very timely. It's just as I was having this debate with other people. So give me a second. I would read it off my phone, but there's my phone right there. Okay. It's OpenAge. Okay, here you go. It says, I'm in a lot of dating groups for non-monogamy, and often the subject of dating trans persons comes up. Literally today, a man posted an intro about only wanting to date organic women. Yeah, whole food, but I digress. Firstly, to the trans persons on my timeline, I'm sorry. I'm sure it gets old having your existence dissected and analyzed and discussed and debated when all you are just doing is trying to live. Secondly, oftentimes the word preference gets thrown around a lot, with the sentiment being, why are you attacking me for my preference? I don't think people really understand what the word preference means. So this was my comment on that fool's post. Preference. I prefer to date cisgender women, but if there is a trans woman that I connect with and like, I will not let that fact that she's trans keep me from being with her. Aversion. I will only date organic, insert eye roll, cisgender women, and if I find out that a woman I'm interested in is trans, there will be an automatic disqualification for me to date her. Preference is fine. Aversion is rooted in transphobia. The more you know. That's Evita Sawyers. Evita La Vida Loca Sawyers. And I'm hoping I'll get a chance to include a link here for her stuff, because she's really fun. One of the comments on that post that I really, really liked is from a writer called Beverly Deal, who's a friend of mine. And this is what she wrote. Even among cisgender people, genitals can be shaped in all kinds of ways. I have a friend whose vagina is permanently out of service due to side effects from cancer treatment. If you only want to be involved with people whose genitals meet your size and shape specifications, stick to toys. You're more likely to get what you want, and less likely that you'll disappoint an actual human being by being a jerk. I really like that, because it is objectification if all you're focusing in is genitalia. I'm going to read you one more comment, and then I'll get back to talking to you. Okay, this is from Ali Henny, and she writes, I am sick and tired of everyone's offended, and I don't know how to act anymore. Culture. I'll read that again. I am sick and tired of everybody's offended, and I don't know how to act anymore. Culture. It is the peak of privilege. People from marginalized groups have spent their entire lives learning how not to run afoul of people in dominant groups. But you all can't handle the pressure of acting like decent human beings. Miss me with that. People are literally killed for not meeting dominant culture's standards. But you all here falling to pieces because someone's calling you a bigot. Child bye. If you don't do bigoted stuff, nobody will call you a bigot. If you get called a bigot, it's probably because you're doing what? Being a bigot. That's really easy to fix. Meanwhile, people from marginalized groups just want to exist without wondering if they're gonna catch some bigot on an off day and end up living their last day. But go ahead and get mad, because you have to think before you speak and act. So, what of all that? Are we saying that you're wrong and you're bad if you don't sleep with trans people? No, nobody's saying that. What we're saying is, do a little self-examination, do a little self-introspection. If you are perfectly fine, if you're a pansexual and you're perfectly fine with penis and you're perfectly fine with vagina, but you're not going to sleep with a trans man, what's at the heart of that? And I'm not saying that you then have to run into this person's arms, but take it apart, examine it, think about it. The preferences that I had 10 years ago, very valid if you ask me 10 years ago, I've dissected, and I came to realize, no, a lot of those things were bigotry, a lot of those things were racism, a lot of those things were transphobia. You can't rush the epiphanies. The epiphanies have to come in their own time. But let them come. And let them come quickly rather than slowly. One interesting example. I lost my virginity to a boy, but then I got completely inundated with shame. This was the AIDS era, and I panicked, and I was celibate for the majority of my 20s. And then I started sleeping with men in my 40s, but still filled with shame. And so here's an interesting tidbit. I wouldn't kiss them. I couldn't kiss them. I couldn't kiss a man. This went on for about 2-3 years of actively sleeping with men, but couldn't kiss them. And what's at the root of that? At the root of that was homophobia. At the time, do you see what I mean? Because at the time, I was presenting male, I was trying really hard to fool the world, fool myself, that I was a male, but I couldn't kiss them. And then I finally just leaned into it, and I tried it, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. And now when I date a man, I definitely like to be kissed. But there was a weirdness, and there was a crossing over, and there was a little bit of trepidation about it, and I had to examine that. So what I'm saying is that sometimes it's scary, and you push, and then you look on the other side, and you're like, oh wow, this is really cool. But not always, and I'm not saying that you have to always find that. My best friend is straight. She describes herself as painfully straight. And we were just talking about it. And she has tried to date women. She has tried to be romantically attached or sexually attracted to women. It just didn't take. But she put herself on a journey. And I applaud that, because that curiosity, that humility, and that not taking anything for granted really leads yourself to have a full life. Because now she knows that she's straight, and she knows that she is because of tangible evidence, and not because, well, is that because I was always afraid to try, or something like, you see what I mean? So she demonstrably knows that that's her preference. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about evaluate what values you grew up with, evaluate what people you were told are others, what people you congregated with. I grew up in South America. I grew up around Latinas and Latinos, so I'm attracted to Latinas and Latinos. I didn't grow up around Indian people. Indian people are new to me. I'm not familiar with them. It's something that I experienced in America, and honestly, I haven't come upon that many Indian people in the areas where I've lived. So now I'm finding that I'm rubbing elbows with Indian people, and I'm learning about their culture, I'm learning about their food, and I'm learning about all kinds of interesting things. I've had a fascinating conversation with a really handsome Indian gentleman about the caste system, I don't know how I'm pronouncing it, but I'm learning about Indian people. And oh my God, did I find this man attractive. But it's a new experience for me. And I'm not saying that I was completely closed off to the idea of dating an Indian person before, but I really hadn't considered it. There's a lot also about privilege and entitlement and unpacking. You stand in a position and you say, well, no, this is just my comfort zone. Is it? Is it your comfort zone, or is it just your privilege and your entitlement talking? For example, would you date a handicapped person? Would you date a person in a wheelchair? Would you date a person who's missing a leg? Okay, so now we're really examining your privilege, because in what ways would dating a person who is an amputee limit your lifestyle or your life? In what way would it impinge on you? And you find in many cases that you have a lot of prejudice, and you might find in many cases that dating such a person does not affect your life in any significant way from dating anybody else. Somebody posted on the group that, well, we can't class trans people the same as cis people, because fine, they're equal, but they're different. I mean, they take all these pills, and they have medical treatment, and they have to be under medical scrutiny. And I posted back, have you dated a cis woman? Cis women take all kinds of pills. They take the pill, they take estrogen pills when they get past menopause. They take a lot of, they take contraceptive pills. They take all kinds of interesting pills throughout their lifetime. They're under medical supervision. They have pap smears. They have the period. They have pregnancies. Cis women are complicated. How about cis men? Cis men take pills like Viagra, like testosterone supplements, like bodybuilding supplements. They have medical scrutiny. They go to a urologist. They receive prostate exams. So yeah, cis men are complicated too. But you know what? I would date cis men, and I would date cis women, in spite of their complications. I think that's all I have to say, and I don't want to make this video too long. So I'm going to leave you some links, hopefully, with this video. And definitely post your comments. I really would like to hear what you have to think about this, what you have to say about this. Alright,